Good morning, everybody. This is Jeff from Russ Bucket Valley Garage, doing another job today. This is an example of one job leading to another job. So last week we were checking the brakes, and because when we were driving around, we heard a little chirp, and generally what that's due to is this is one of the brake pads. This is a new one. There's this little spring clip on here that when the brake material goes down or wears down to the spring metal piece that they have on here, it makes a chirping sound and it keeps you from tearing your rotors up. So we heard that sound. We went on the front. One of the pads was down, and so we replaced both sides of the front brakes. And then we figured, well, what the heck? We might as well take the rears off and see what's going on in there. The rear shoes were fine. However, we did find that the bearing in the rear axle on the right side had some movement in it. So we wanted to take care of that. So to take care of that problem, we had to pull the rear end apart and we had to pull the axles out. And on a difficulty scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I could do this job in my sleep, 10 being, oh my gosh, what a nightmare, this is about a 5 or a 6. Okay, so not really wanting to do the job, but we'll go ahead and do it anyway. Had the parts guy take and run down to the dealership in Torrance, and we picked up a new set of bearings. Okay, so we're going to be doing both sides, because if you tear the rear end apart, you might as well take and do both sides. These are new grease seals that go in there. We have a plastic cup. We want to take and soak the bearings in 90 weight oil before we install them, so we can take and do that right now. In addition to the bearings and the seals, we have new gear oil. It takes about 2 quarts and some change to take and replenish the fluid in the rear end. So we got 3, 80 to 90 weight. We have blue silicone gasket maker for the rear cover on the differential, because we have to pull that off. The S10 axles are funny in that they are held in by a clip that is inside the differential. So we have to pull part of the differential apart so they can get that out. Usually you will have, on most cars, when you take the wheels, tires, and brake drums off, you will have 4 bolts there that are on a plate. And you take the 4 bolts out of the plate, and then you just pull the axles out that way. And the bearing comes out. On the axle is a unit. You have to take it back in the shop, put it on the press the bearing off, press a new one on, and then it goes back in. Well, the S10s are different. The axle bearings are inside the end of the housing. So you have to take and buy, if you don't have already, a bearing puller set and a seal installation kit. There you go. These are both available from Summit Racing. This is a part number on the installation kit. This is a part number on the puller set. This is a very nice puller set. I like it. It's quality made. You want to take and choose one of these that will go inside the axle, and when you take and insert it in, this turns like this. You stick it into the axle, and then it flattens out like this. It is just the same diameter as the inside of the bearing, so it just takes and pulls the bearing out. To get that out, there's a threaded piece on the back here. You use a slide hammer. This goes on to the end of the slide hammer, and with a couple of bangs you get that out. And that's also prior to you taking the seal out. Take the seal out first, then you put this tool in, then you take and put the bearing in. So, and there's another set that you use for putting the bearing in. This is what the set looks like. You can take and choose this one right here. This one goes onto here, and it screws on there, and you can use that. This just happens to be the same diameter as the grease seal. Goes on there like that. They can tap it in. This is 2.325 inches, so real easy to do. What I would suggest you do on the back of these, there is a spring ring here that helps the sealing of the seal, and you want to take this area and fill it with grease so that when you're putting this in, that ring doesn't pop off. If it does pop off, this thing will start to leak prematurely. So we're going to start soaking our bearings, and we're going to get out our jack stands and our floor jack, and we're going to put the vehicle up on jack stands for safety. We are going to take the bolts out of the rear end cover, and that's probably 1/2 inch, and there's about 10 of them. And then we are going to let that drain, because that's going to take some time to drain. It's full of gear oil, so we'll get that draining while we're doing everything else, and the next thing you see will be with the rear end draining. Okay, so what we've done so far is we have our bearings soaking in the 90 weight. Okay, you have to take and soak those before you take and put them in. We have also removed the wheels and tires from both sides. However, we have left the brake drums on. Leave the brake drums on at this time because there is a bolt that you have to take out of the carrier. It's inside the third member housing, and if you apply the emergency brake, it won't allow the carrier to spin, so you'll have an easier time getting the bolt out. So under here we have the third member's draining. Been draining for a minute or so. We did leave one bolt up here in top, and then we took a chisel just right to this corner right here, and we loosened up the cover for the third member, and that's so it wouldn't make such a big mess when it came out. So we're gonna let that drain for just a little while, and then we'll go ahead, and in the meantime we're going to take the drums off. And then there's 4 bolts on each side that hold on a dust shield that is over the bearing assembly, but we won't be able to get the axles out yet because we need to take a part out of the rear end that's under this cover here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll be back with you. Okay, there is some variation in some of these models. Some of them have a hole right here in the end of the axle for you to take and access these 4 bolts that are behind here. This one does not, so that means we have to take and pull the axle first. First step to take and pull the axle is there is a pin, which is right here, that holds the spider gears in. They're inside this carrier. Okay, first thing you have to do is take a 5/16 wrench and take this bolt out. And that will come out. You just take and draw it back just as far as it will, and then you have to go back up and put the vehicle into neutral, and then you can turn the ring gear. And what you want to do is you want to be able to have clearance to take and push this pin in and allow you to take and push it out far enough so that you can take and clear the axles. On this side here and in this side here, there are big clearance holes in which you can take and get the clips out of the ends of the axles. Okay, and we'll get this turned around here, and we'll be back with you in a second. Okay, so what we've done is we have taken the pin out for the spider gears, put it right here, the edge of our pan of oil. Okay, and what we've done is we have pushed the axle in just a little bit, and we removed the clip that that lives on there. This right here is what the clip looks like. Comes right off with your finger. Okay, and then if you take and go around on the outside, you should be able to pull the axle. Okay, here's the axle that we just unpinned from the inside, and comes right out. Okay, first thing you want to look at is the bearing surface right here. Doesn't really look that bad. Okay, so we'll be cleaning this up, and then now we have full access to the dust cover that is on here. And then we'll take those bolts out of there, and we'll show you what's underneath. Right, so we have the axle out of there. We will go ahead and use a tool removal, a universal tool for seal removal. Let's go ahead and pull that out of there. So drop that, make sure you put a pan under it because there's going to be fluid coming out of there. The next thing we're going to be doing is using our bearing removal tool, which will go inside here, just like this, and it hooks on the inside. Go ahead and run the nut up. Does keeps the tool in place, and it's a slide hammer, so and with a couple of wraps the thing will come out. Okay, so we got the old bearing out, and yeah, thing was stuck a little bit, but it came out. You want to clean the bore up here real good. Is just a little bit of debris in there. So you want to take and clean that up real good. It turns out we don't have to take this dust shield off at all, so that's good. Saves us a little bit of labor. So we'll go ahead and clean that up, and we'll get ready to take and put the new bearing in. So we have our new bearing lined up. It's ready to go in. So we'll get one of the hammers out of the shop, and we'll use our installation tool, which will take and go right in here like this, and then we'll drive that in. So we have the new bearing in place. Looks pretty nice. Okay, so next thing to go in is the seal that we will take and use a different driver. This one's from the bearing. We need to take and pick one that will seat this. Looks about the right size right there. So we'll go ahead and change that up, and we'll seat the seal in there. Don't forget to take and pack the back of this, okay, with grease first to keep this little spring ring in place so it won't cause problems later on. Okay, so we have the back side of the seal packed with grease. Let's go ahead and install that. Okay, so the seal has been installed, and the axle is ready to go back into its home. And we'll get those gears lined up. There it is. Okay, that's just where it should be. Now all we need to do is put that clip back on, and this side is done. So it's the same procedure for the other side. So when you come back under the car, you'll see the axle is engaged Having a problem with the light here today. It's engaged with the spider gear, and it will be pushed in with the groove for the spider gear. It'll be visible, the land where you take and put the C-clip in, and all you have to do, take and seat that, go ahead and put the clip in, and then reach on the outside and pull the axle back. It will slip back into place. Okay. So here we are on the other side. We've already pushed the axle in, and you see the clip right here is ready to come out. All you gotta do, stick your finger in there and fish that out, and then the axle will take and come right out. So as you saw on the inside, where the third member carrier is located, we just removed the clip off there. So this axle will just come right out now. Make sure you have a pan underneath it. So the oil's going to come out of here. You just follow the procedure as you did on the other side. You remove the seal and use a slide hammer to take the bearing out. Your new bearing has already been soaking. You go ahead and line that up after cleaning the bore. Use the installation tool to take and put that in the new bearing. Make sure it's fully seated. When you are driving the bearing in, there will be a definite difference in the sound as you are driving the bearing in as to when it is fully seated. It'll be a more solid sound. Okay, and then clean the bore out that is on the outside of where the seal is, which is right here. Just go ahead and pull that one out. I just used just a generic bar to take and get that out. It's no problem at all. Unfortunately, they don't make a special seal pulling tool. Actually, they do, but I can't find mine. But just go ahead and get that seal out, and then the bearing will come out with the slide hammer. Make sure everything's clean when you get back together. Try not to drop it on the ground. Don't get too many dirts or leaves in there. So you ought to be in good shape. So we'll go ahead and process this side, and we'll be back with you in a minute. All right, so just to take and wind things up. Total job took about 2.5 hours. We cleaned all the gasket surfaces off of the third member and the mounting cover. Used our blue RTV on there. Torqued all the hardware to about 22 inch-pounds, and that would be enough to take and keep it from leaking. On the anyway, on the brakes, since it took so much effort to take and get the bearing extracted from the other side, the jarring knocked the brake shoes out of position, so we couldn't get the drum back on, so we had to take and put the brakes back into position, and then the drum went back right back on. The fill plug for the fluid, 90 weight, goes in the rear end, is on the right side of the S10s. If you leave the right rear tire off, you'll see there is a fill plug right there, so you can take and have a straight shot in it. If you buy your 90 weight in plastic quart containers, you can take a small piece of hose, you can put it on there and take 2 of the quarts and take and pour one into the other as full as you can get it, and then go ahead and cut off about 1/3 of the cap on there, because it'll be pointed with the cap on it, and then go ahead and put the hose on there and stick the hose into the filling port and tilt it up there, and it will be really easy to take and fill it up if you don't have a pump. Okay, you can get a pump. They're about 15, 16 bucks, but why should you take and spend that when a piece of rubber hose will take and do the same job? The capacity on this one is just a little bit less than 2 quarts, about 1 3/4. So you're supposed to be able to remove this filling port screw and stick your finger in there and just go down and touch the top of the fluid. Okay, it shouldn't be overfilled. If it's overfilled, you're going to have a problem with your pinion seal, and it's going to start leaking out of there where the drive shaft comes into the differential. Okay, so I hope this video has been helpful. I wish you could take and ask me questions, but you can leave comments. Please subscribe, hit the notification button if you want to know when I do something next. Okay? And we'd love to have you. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, because as you can see, it is dark. We're the only ones here. We decided to get this one knocked out and give the crew Saturday and Sunday off. So we'll see you next time.